One of the biggest problems I hear about from my students is that they don't like the way they sound. I hear a lot of comments like, "Oh, the dog left the room when I started to play." So in this lesson, I'm going to give you some practices that you can do to dramatically improve your sound. Before we get into the specific practices, I just want to say, as a high-level mindset thing, make good sound a priority. Work on your sound every time you play. Maybe slow down the amount of new tunes you're consuming to really focus on sound and make something sound good. And not only that, return to a good sound throughout a practice session. You may work on your sound a little bit, do a song, and then return to just focusing completely on a good sound. So with that in mind, here are 4 practices you can do to improve your sound. Number 1, centering. Number 2, throwaway bow. Number 3, volume control. Number 4, dividing the bow into thirds. Whenever I read these lists, I always feel like I'm on the Family Feud reading the answers that people didn't get right. But that's a story for another day, maybe for the Fiddleosophy blog. So the first tip is something I call centering, which is very simple. Play a single note with a drone track, and make that one note sound as good as possible. I think all of you, even the most beginner fiddler, can make one note sound a little bit better in a session. You can do it right now. Let's play A1 with the G drone. Feel free to join me right now. Keep playing. And as you play that note, enjoy the sound, especially as it starts to sound good. Really enjoy it. And then, not only that, start to enjoy the feeling in your body of playing one note well. And then as you start to enjoy the feeling in your body, I bet you a donut that you'll start to sound even better once you relax and you enjoy the feeling. Let's do it a little bit more. Sometimes I close my eyes as a way to connect with the sound too. It's all part of the centering process. And so it's so simple, but so powerful. And you can do it on one note. And then once you achieve that with one note, do it on another note. And then think you can see where this is going. You do it on more complex things, but always keeping the idea of good sound in mind. So we could then do a G major scale. Or whatever scale you happen to be playing. That's, in general, I say, play the scale for the song you're about to do, the tune you're about to do. You could also do this practice on chords. Make a chord sound as good as it can be. Maybe you just have to play one chord. Maybe you split that chord into 2 notes, like G major chord, open D and A1. If you're struggling to make that sound good, break it into 2 notes, sometimes called an arpeggio. You can do more complex things like little tune chunks, all the while making it sound good. And then you could do even bigger pieces, like the whole tune, full focus on tone. Then as you practice and as you do this, you may get to a point where you let go of this intentionality, and you're maybe just practicing. You're working on some other thing, or you're just playing the song. And then you may realize, oh, my sound has kind of drifted away. Just return to that single note once more. You can do it. You can return to a good sound at all times. This is such a powerful practice. The second of the 4 tone practices I want to share with you is something I call throwaway bow. There's probably a fancy musical term for this that I just haven't found yet. If you know it, please tell me. But I call it throwaway bow because it seems very descriptive. You get a nice big round sound by a fast, quick bow stroke, and then letting the bow fly off so the string continues to vibrate. I sometimes call this the thank you, good night moment. Thank you, good night. So you can do it down bow, you can do it up bow. On any note. And then once you can get a good sound with a single throwaway bow, try to maintain that sound with continuous quarter notes. So let's do A1 again. It's almost like I have that feel of throwaway bow, and then I can do it continuously. So that alone is like your secret weapon, throwaway bow. You can always do this as well to really boost your sound. And then if you want to bring that sound into like a song, you can play the chaining game to do that. This is super fun. So you take a chunk of a tune, you play the first note with throwaway bow, then the first two notes you end always with throwaway bow. This is how the game works. So if we do Irish Washerwoman, start with A1, and then the first two notes, and then I'm going to continue chaining. And notice how I really am dramatic with my arm. Not only is it fun and it feels good, but it's a way to really release the tension and really bring out the sound. And you get to pretend you're Pete Townsend. Except don't smash your fiddle, please. You see where that's going. You can keep going and building a phrase. And if at some point it starts to not sound good, like whatever, then you focus in on that. Maybe I need to just do throwaway from going D3 to A1. Or maybe I realize I need to do some other practice to get that better. So, but you can play the chaining game and you're just trying to keep that strong sound every step of the way. And you're not gonna do this throughout an entire session, but do it for like a chunk of a song or a scale, and it'll really open up your sound. The third technique for getting a good sound on the fiddle or the violin fiddle or the fiddle violin, whatever you feel like calling it, is to play with volume, to try to get more volume control. So as a beginner, you maybe play at a sort of a medium volume. Still playing A1. So what you can do is start to play louder and softer volume. So to play louder, you'd use a little bit more pressure, more weight, and more bow. To play quieter, you would reverse that. You'd play with a lot less bow and a lot less pressure. Quiet is fun and challenging in its own way. Try to get it so that it's a whisper. So you barely hear it. I love doing that, and then trying to play something fast. Playing quiet is like this secret weapon as well. All these things in this lesson are secret weapons that really are not secret anymore because I'm telling them to you, but you may forget about them and then they become secrets again. Okay. And louder, do the same thing. Louder, and then one more really great volume practice you can do with anything is swells. So in music speak, this would be crescendo. So take the single note. And then get quieter. You can do this on scales, and you can do it on song chunks, sticking with today's example of Irish Washerwoman. Plus, I think it's fun. Playing with volume is a kind of a variation, and it's a way for you to be creative. The fourth and final tip I want to give you today is to divide the bow into thirds and play everything in each third of the bow. So I have that, and in all my videos I have this tape here. Now, part of it as a video production tip is that it helps people out there see the movement of the bow. But the other side of it is that when you divide it into thirds, that's exactly what we need to practice. So you could do anything in any third of the bow. So the middle third tends to be the easiest. So you do your single notes, you do your scales, and your tune chunks. And then you just repeat all that for every portion of the bow. So the tip, or the upper third I meant to say, and then the lower third, which as you get closer to the bottom, this is known as the frog. Usually that's more of a classical music term, but anyhow, it's good for you to know in case you hear it. And I find the frog to be a little bit more challenging playing down here. But then it has its own sound too, which you'll come to recognize, and that awareness will help you sound better. You can kind of get more grit there, which I kind of like a lot of that. I think my bow tape is a little bit too far down, but... And then finally, if you master one thing in each third of the bow, you can do the Jedi Knight step of playing things with a whole bow. So try to get a really good sound on a whole bow. And as you move through each section of the bow, ask yourself, how does it feel? How does it feel? Do I feel kind of tense here? Do I feel like resistance? And how does it sound? And how do those things relate? Like when it sounds weird, how does my body react? Stuff like that's really good to know. Like your body it's not just your mind that's learning, it's your body that's learning too in a lot of ways. And going back to the first thing I mentioned, the centering practice is so powerful because it reminds you that you have a body. It's kind of been my theme of the year, that I have a body. It may sound obvious, but I realized I forget about my body a lot. So a lot of these practices are meant to help you embody the music and think of your body as part of the thinking process as well. Okay, so let's summarize the 4 big practices I mentioned. Centering, throwaway bow, volume control, dividing the bow into thirds. Also remember to prioritize good sound, to do it a little bit every day, to return to good sound throughout a practice. And what will happen if you do this is you'll enter a virtuous cycle. You'll sound better, you'll have more fun, and you'll feel better about learning the instrument. It'll help you through when you get really stuck. You can just return to a simple good sound, one note, super easy tune, like a simple tune, and just return to a good sound. And you'll be like, okay, I'm good. I am getting better. So you enter a virtuous cycle where you're going to really start to notice that you're getting better, and then that will fuel you to practice, and then you will get even better with your sound. You continue that way. You see how that works? So there's a lot more things you could do to get a good sound. And as you continue your fiddle journey, you will discover them. I've taught other things, and it's hard to keep everything in mind and what. So I try to think of like the 4 biggest things I know to share with you. So, well, I hope that's helpful. Great hanging out with you guys. Feel free to leave me a comment and tell me what's going on with you and your fiddling. And cool. Keep on fiddling. Have fun along the way. Bye. Go to FiddleHed.com for a progressive step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Excellent! And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.